Welcome back, times and newcomers alike to 999. Last episode we finished this room and ran into yet another complicated lecture from Lotus. Let's finish.
A field not visible to the eye. So if more people know the answer, then that information will pass through the field.
Psych!
Her manner suddenly shifted, and Lotus smiled broadly at Junpei and Santa. She waved her hand dismissively, doing her best to laugh the whole confrontation off.
Oh, I was just kidding. You really shouldn't take me seriously. Well, I mean, the things I told you about are true. They really did happen. But the results of that experiment really aren't anything to go by. They could have easily falsified them. In the end, I'm sure they were just in it for the ratings. They are a TV station, after all.
At last, it seemed that Santa had gained control of his composure.
Right. Man, I gotta admit, you had me there for a minute. I, really thought you were serious.
Of course not. Like I told you before, I'm sure it's all just pseudoscience.
Oh, okay. Right.
Santa and Lotus laughed and gave one another jovial claps on the shoulder. Junpei, however, didn't feel so much like laughing. Something felt wrong, unclear.
Alright, enough nonsense. We've got the key. Let's get out of here.
Word.
Lotus and Santa walked away from the picture. But Junpei stayed, staring at the picture of the dog. A field not visible to the naked eye. Morphogenic field. The more he thought about it, the more his head hurt. Oh god. So complicated.
Alright. Let's go to the hallway. I'll go get June. You guys head to the door.
Okay.
Roger that.
Out we go.
Yes! It unlocked!
Good job, Junpei.
Good. Now we can get going. Come on! What are you guys standing around for? Let's get out of here!
Yes. Let's go.
Come on, Junpei, let's go.
Alright. Let's go.
Da-da-da-da-dun. I sort of found it? Oh, nope, I did find it. Okay, I found it. They stepped through the door to find themselves in a wide hallway. Junpei, June, Lotus, and Santa stopped for a moment, then looked at their surroundings. A short distance away, a metal grate extended across the width of the hallway. They took hold and shook, but it refused to move. Nearby was a pair of elevators. It took only a few button presses to determine that the elevators would not respond to their efforts. They could only assume the elevators were not powered. There was only one door left.
Well, looks like we don't have any choice.
Yeah.
Sure does.
Well then, let's open it.
Junpei grabbed hold of the knob and quietly pushed the door open. He entered slowly, trying to take in as much of his surroundings as he could. The others followed shortly.
Oh, so it's a kitchen.
Santa did not look pleased.
What were you expecting?
Isn't it obvious? The exit. I was hoping this would be the way out of here.
You really think it'd be that easy?
Yeah, I know. Still.
As they talked, Lotus headed deeper into the room. Until at last she stood in front of a door.
If we can just get through this door, we should come out on the other side of that grate we saw earlier.
But Don't we need a key for that? Sorry. I guess that wasn't very constructive.
Neither Junpei nor Lotus looked terribly happy. Junpei dug the ship map from his pocket and spread it out in front of him. As he did,
Hey!
What's that?
Huh? Oh, yeah. I guess I forgot to tell you. I found this a little while ago. It's a map of the B deck.
before Junpei could finish, Lotus snatched the map away from him. She ran her finger across it, muttering to herself.
I knew it. See? Look.
Junpei did as he was told. Sana and June moved over to look at the map as well.
See? We came in here. If we go out there, then we'll be on the other side of the grate.
With her finger, Lotus traced a path on the map. She was right. Satisfied that she'd been correct, Lotus folded the map and handed it back to Junpei. He took it and slid the valuable piece of paper back into his pocket.
There's a card reader on the right side of the door.
Then that means the key card is somewhere in here, right?
And that seems the most likely.
Alright, we know what we need to do then. Let's get moving. First off, I say we split up and look for clues.
Okay.
Taking the Blues Clues route, I see. Let's do this. Okay, first of all, let me see if there's dialogue before I explain what the freak is going to happen in this room. Okay, good, there's no dialogue. This room is very hard, and the final puzzle in this room is unlocking a code that requires a lot of math. So I'm going to do my best to solve it, but chances are I probably won't be able to. So you'll probably end up seeing me look up a walkthrough for that part. In the meantime, I'll be going for the rest of the rooms for sure.
Well, I can move the doorknob.
Then I'll bet all we need to do is get this bolt off.
Do it then.
It's a bolt. And it's really rusty.
Oh my god, Lotus, a door!
Don't mock me.
Will this even open?
We won't know till we try. Let's give it a shot. Alright, let's see if you're gonna come out. Damn. No dice.
Okay, so that bolt is locked tight, so we can't go in there yet. Can go in here, though. What's in here? A knife! Oh, it has a knife.
A rusty knife. I don't think we'll be able to use it while it's like this.
The knife seemed important, Junpei thought, but it wasn't going to be much use the way it was.
It's futile.
Futile.
You know, a waste, useless, pointless.
Oh. Any particular reason you wanted to bring that up?
Oh, no reason, really. I was just thinking about futility.
She wasn't making much sense. Junpei tried rephrasing his question.
Why were you thinking about futility?
At last, she answered.
Well, it has something to do with the Titanic.
The Titanic?
Yep. Have you ever heard the story that the sinking of the Titanic was predicted?
Sure.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. There was a novel that had a bunch of stuff in it that described the sinking of the Titanic before it actually sank.
Yeah, that's the one. The title of the novel is Futility. It was written 14 years before the Titanic sank. But
I know. I mean, I didn't know the name of the book, but... The story was the same, right? It was just like what happened on Titanic?
Yeah.
Well, I heard it was all a hoax.
A hoax?
I heard that the stuff that matched up to the Titanic soul was actually added after it sank. Apparently, the only thing that was the same originally was that a boat ran into an iceberg and sank.
But the novel was published in 1898, 14 years before the accident.
Like I said, that was the first print of the book. 14 years later, the author heard about what happened to the Titanic. He figured that was his chance, you know? He just went back and changed some stuff in his novel. So that it matched the Titanic exactly.
Surprised by Junpei's response, June seemed rather taken aback.
Really?
Really. There's no such thing as premonitions or any of that stuff.
For a moment, June looked very unhappy, more so than Junpei thought was normal for such a discussion. But it lasted only a moment. With no apparent reason, she suddenly looked up at him alarmed.
But... That wasn't the only book that predicted the Titanic sinking.
It wasn't?
Yep. There were 2 other similar stories written by a man named William Thomas Stead, both of them before the accident. One in 1886 and one in 1892. Stead wrote 2 stories that had striking similarities to the Titanic disaster. In one, 2 ships collided, and many of the passengers died because there weren't enough lifeboats. In the other, a ship collided with an iceberg and sank.
I don't know. I mean, I'll give you that, it seems a little weird, but... I'm pretty sure it wasn't too uncommon for ships to hit icebergs back in the day, or even other ships.
Right. I knew you'd say that. But what if Stead had some sort of special powers? To be more specific, what if he had the ability to do automatic writing?
What? Automatic writing? Wait, are you talking about that thing where someone says they're possessed by a spirit? And then they write a bunch of stuff without knowing what they're writing?
Yes.
What do you mean, yes? That stuff's a load of bull!
But, Jumpy, you said you believe in curses.
Come on, that's totally different. Okay, so let's say, hypothetically, that automatic writing isn't a total load. These guys still couldn't have predicted the sinking of the Titanic. When this Steed dude wrote his thing, nobody had died on the Titanic yet. So if automatic writing is about being possessed by spirits of dead people, who the hell possessed him so he could write that stuff?
That's not it.
What's not it?
Stead wasn't possessed by a spirit. He was doing the possessing.
What are you smoking?
William Thomas Stead was a passenger on the Titanic. He just wrote down what he saw with his own eyes. 20 years before it happened.
He decided it was probably best to say nothing. What June was saying was insane and utterly absurd. If he tried to take what she was saying seriously, he'd go mad. Junpei smiled uncomfortably.
Well, why don't we talk about this some other time? Okay?
Huh? But
Her voice trailed off, and she glanced at the floor, troubled. Junpei tapped June gently on the shoulder and awkwardly reached around to pick up the knife from the box. Well, I can sum up that entire conversation in 3 words. Half-Life 3 confirmed. Alright, anywho, there should be a whetstone around here somewhere.
there's so much stuff in here. A whole lot of cans.
This is probably a pantry.
Durr. Cheese!
Hey, there's something behind the cheese.
You're right. Why don't we move some of the cheese?
Alright guys, time to move it. June and I need to look behind you. There's a little green bottle back there.
Okay, grab that bottle. Say cheese! And a bottle of oil. Alright, I think that's it for whatever's in this room. There should be a whetstone around here somewhere, as far as I remember.
Oh, a countertop.
There's a rolling pin and a colander here. Nothing useful.
There should be. Isn't that where the whetstone is? Maybe it's in here. Nope. Blah, 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 blah. What about in here? There it is. Found it. Combined with knife.
Maybe I'll use the whetstone to sharpen the knife. The blade of the knife is getting sharper by the second. I should be able to cut something pretty good with this.
Aw, yeah. Okay, so we got that. Now where else do we go here? We're not going in there. We have to go... Nothing in here either. There should be a pork chop or something around here.
This is the door we came in through. It's not locked, so we could go back out, but...
What's the point, right? All that's out there is an iron gate and a dead-end hallway.
Yep. Might as well be locked, for all the good going back out there do.
So we do. Okay, okay, let's see. Oh, now that we've got the oil, we can go through this door, right?
This boulder's rusting in place. It won't budge. Of course! Maybe I put some oil on it.
Hey!
Just a little bit of oil and... Come on. Come on, you little son of a bitch. Whoa! Ha! Yes! Got you, you little bastard!
You did it, Jumpy! You're so smart.
Huh. Junpei smart. Not like he solves all the puzzles in the known universe or anything. As Junpei walked into the room, a blast of cold air washed over him. Almost instinctively, he folded his arms tight across his chest, doing what he could to conserve body heat.
It's cold in here. What is this place?
Are you blind? It's a freezer!
Santa's teeth had already begun to chatter. Hardly surprising. The freezer was far too cold for someone dressed as he was. Lotus, however, was in an even worse situation.
Oh, no way! That's way too cold for me. I'll freeze solid in seconds. Sorry, but I'm afraid I'll have to pass on this one. I'm going to leave the rest to you.
And with that, she ran out of the room. As Lotus left, June came in.
Whoa, it's really cold in here.
White puffs of steam hovered in front of their faces as they talked. June had already started to shiver.
Hey, you don't need to be in here. You had a fever just a little bit ago. You just stay outside. We got this.
No, I'm fine. My fever's gone down now.
But...
Junpei had scarcely opened his mouth when the thunderous sound of metal upon metal rang out from behind them. In unison, they spun around to find that the door they'd only recently come through was closed. Junpei rushed to the door. Desperately, he grabbed hold of the doorknob.
Ow!
It was cold, beyond cold. Merely touching it was painful. The doorknob had been frozen solid. They quickly deduced that the pipe next to the door had ruptured. Water released by the rupture had hit the door and frozen instantly. Santa shoved Junpei aside and pounded against the door.
Hey, Lotus! You're out there, right? Open the door!
She wasted no time in responding.
What do you want? What's going on?
The door won't open! Try opening it from that side. Please!
Ugh, fine. If you say so. Hold on.
Soon they could hear Lotus on the other side of the door. Then the grunting ceased, and they could hear light panting as if from exertion.
It's no use. It won't budge. You've got more people in there. You figure it out.
God damn it!
Santa was shaking like a newborn deer. June was hugging herself and was shivering violently. Even Junpei, with the heaviest clothes of all of them, was clearly feeling the cold. With every breath they took, they could feel the cold working its way deeper and deeper into their bodies.
Anyway, let's find a way out. If we don't get moving, we're gonna be permanent residents.
Two heads are better than none. I'm sure we'll figure something out.
Yeah, you're right. Let's take a good look around this room, okay?
Right.
They pushed in close to one another and began to search. Alright, first thing we do is check this. And we grab this. No? Can't grab that. What about this? I got a frozen chicken. What about this? I got a dry ice. Junpei picked up the dry ice with his sleeve so as to avoid burning himself.
Dry ice is just frozen carbon dioxide, right?
Yeah, it is.
I wonder how warm it has to get for it to turn back into gas again.
Hell if I know. How is that gonna help us anyway?
Oh, well, I figured we might be able to use it to get out of here.
They were about to move on when June spoke up.
Carbon dioxide sublimation point is negative 109 degrees. Any warmer than that, and it'll turn to gas. Any lower, and it becomes a solid.
Junpei looked at her dumbfounded.
How do you know that?
Despite my looks, I'm the queen of random knowledge.
Looks bad to mess up when you're showing off.
Oh,
Oh, you're so cold your mouth's going numb?
Yeah. That's right.
You're just doing that on purpose, aren't you?
June giggled and did her best to hide her guilt. At least she was still feeling good enough to joke around, Junpei told himself.
Come on, guys, don't you think that's kinda weird? I wonder why it doesn't turn into a liquid first.
Santa was now shivering at an astounding rate, but his curiosity seemed unaffected. Junpei, however, was not in a mood to discuss science. It did strike Junpei as rather odd. If you don't click this, you don't get the true ending, so click it. It did seem rather odd to Junpei, and he couldn't help but think about it. June answered.
But it can turn into a liquid. Carbon dioxide turns to liquid if you put it under high enough pressure. But at 1 atmosphere, normal air pressure,
It won't turn into a liquid, right?
that's right. Instead of melting, it'll do what's called sublimating, and change immediately from a solid state to a gaseous one.
See, that is weird. Water's a liquid between 32 degrees and 212 degrees. So why isn't that the case for carbon dioxide?
June replied with an answer that stunned both of them.
There's a kind of ice that doesn't turn into a liquid when it goes above 32 degrees. I heard about it. Its melting point is 96 degrees.
Ice with a melting point of 96 degrees?
You mean there's water that freezes at 96 degrees?
Yeah. Well, you can also look at it as ice that won't melt until it's 96 degrees.
Water that freezes at 96 degrees? Ice that won't melt until it's 96 degrees? Junpei was cold as hell, but this was too interesting to ignore. He did his best to warm up by rubbing his arms and stamping his feet, then put the question to June.
So what's this ice with a melting point of 96 degrees called?
I heard it's called Ice 9.
Ice 9?
Originally, Ice 9 was a made-up substance invented by a science fiction author. But recently, scientists have discovered that such a substance actually exists.
Wait. Hold up. So is this thing called Ice 9? Or is it water?
Like I said, if the ice is over 96 degrees, it'll be liquid. If it's under that, it'll solidify. So you could think of it as a polymorph of H2O. Here, think of it like diamonds and graphite. They're both made of carbon, right? But depending on the structure of the crystallization, the hardness and structure are completely different.
So you're saying normal water and this Ice 9 are like that?
Yep.
She wasn't finished.
Have you ever heard the story about the crystallization of glycerin? For 150 years after the discovery of glycerin, people cooled it, warmed it, and did all sorts of things to it. But whatever they did, it never crystallized. However, one day in 1920...
Some glycerin that was en route to England by ship was discovered to have crystallized during the trip. Naturally, scientists worldwide wanted to research this new crystallized form of glycerin and began asking for samples of the seed. A seed is, of course, a sample of the original crystallized substance. With a seed crystal, further crystallization of glycerin would be a simple matter. However, something very strange happened. Not only did the glycerin encouraged by seed crystals begin to crystallize, nearby samples did as well. It didn't end there. After that day, all glycerin in the world began to crystallize naturally when cooled to less than 64 degrees. Before that day, no matter how glycerin was cooled, it refused to crystallize. But once the crystallization had begun...
It was almost like... How do I put it? It was almost like all of the glycerin in the world was communicating.
And on that note, we're going to end the episode here. Next episode of 999, more about this Ice 9 substance, and maybe we'll get through this room. See you guys next time.